Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning and warm regards to everyone. Greetings to my thesis advisor, Bapak Rogi Adiguna, and other lecturers and fellow candidates. I would like to express my deepest gratitude for your presence and also the opportunity to present my thesis defense today. My name is Daniel Matthew Iskandar, and I'm a student of Master in Management program at Universitas Gadjah Mada, Jakarta campus. And today I'm honored to share the findings of my research entitled Barriers to Ripple Adoption in Traditional Banking System, the Challenges and Opportunity in Cross-Border Money Transfers. So let's moving forward to the introduction. In today's digital era, the financial services industry is undergoing rapid transformations. The customers increasingly demand banking services that are faster, more affordable, and also easily accessible, especially for international fund transfers. However, most traditional banks still rely on the legacy systems such as SWIFT, which often required 1 to 5 business days to settle the transaction and involve high fees. Ripple offers a blockchain infrastructure, especially with a financial institution, enabling a real-time settlement and also the cost saving and also enhanced transparency. Yet, despite its potential adoption of Ripple in traditional banking sectors, particularly in Indonesia, remains very limited. We move on to this one. The next slide is actually to understand the need for the research. We must first examine the core problems that Ripple aims to address this traditional banking landscape. The traditional cross-border banking systems, such as SWIFT, are often slow, expensive, and lack of transparency. The transaction may take several days to complete, and customers are frequently unaware about the immediate fees and also the exact status of their funds. This creates inefficiency and also undermines the customer experience, especially today's digital era where speed and visibility are expected. In Ripple XRP, on the other hand, they offer a blockchain-based alternative that enable real-time settlement, significantly lower fees, and also the improved transparency through the distributed ledger technology, and continue to be a major obstacle in Bank Indonesia has not yet issued a clear legal framework from blockchain based on cross-border payment. The technical integration challenge arise due to outdated legacy system and also the institutional resistance such as compliance, and Bank Indonesia or OJK is actually often perceived Ripple as a disruptive and also untested. These challenges are compounded by a lack of robust academic research in Indonesian context. Most available studies focus on global case studies and leaving a gap in localized insight that can help policymakers and banks navigate Ripple adoption more strategically. My research, therefore, is positioning to fill the gap by identifying the barriers in details, comparing Ripple existing simple systems such as SWIFT and also PRIS, ultimately offering practical recommendation for the adoption. So after identifying the core problems in the previous slide, I structured my research around two main research questions, which what are the various strategic consideration in implementation Ripple XRP technology for cross-border fund transfer in traditional banking institution? And then the second one is actually about how can Ripple XRP technology can be effectively adopted by traditional banks to optimize cross-border transaction while addressing those challenges. To answer this question, I developed 4 specific objectives, which the first one to identify the key adoption challenges, which including the regulatory uncertainty, infrastructure readiness, and also the institutional resistances. And then second one to assess the regulatory, operational, and also the financial consideration, particularly comparing with the Ripple compare with the versus Swift and also Breeze. This one is actually a local network that currently developing. And then the third one is actually to evaluate Ripple's competitive advantage and limitation. And then last, to develop a strategic roadmap that banks can follow to safely and effectively adopt Ripple, ensuring alignment with the compliance, governance, and also the customer experience goals. This question objective from form as actually the backbone of this research and guide every stage of the methodology and the analysis that follows. Um, The next ones we can move on to the literature review. In my literature review, I focus on three main areas: Ripple technology, the barriers to its adoption. The first one, I studied how Ripple blockchain infrastructure, especially the XRP ledger and also on-demand liquidity, to function as a cross-border payment solution. This literature from the Ripple Labs SWOT and also comparative research by Gupta and Jindal. And this one's actually, those article is actually to support the claim that Ripples offer faster settlement, lower cost, and also greater transparency than traditional system like SWIFT. And then the second one, I explore the literature that discuss the barriers to blockchain adoption in banking, the particular in emerging markets report by the World Bank and also the BWC. They highlight the key issues such as regulatory ambiguity, technology legacy constraint, and also institutional risk aversion. These issues directly shape the problem formulation of my thesis. And the third one, I grounded my research approach in strategic and risk-based framework, which is the article is actually Embled's Spock, Kostap, and also Adrian Machini. They offer insight in how institutions evaluate the disruption technology and manage transformation risks. They supported my decision to analyze Ripple adoption not only from the technical standpoint, but also from a strategic and regulatory perspective. So finally, the fourth literature strongly informed my research methodology, which I applied about the thematic analysis, the SWOT analysis, gap analysis, also the comparative analysis. I'm using or focusing, adopting the theory from the Brown Clark's articles from 2006, the framework. And this method allowed me to triangle the findings from multiple perspectives and also to provide a comprehensive view from Ripple adoption in traditional banks. And then let's move on to the research method that I use. This study adopt a qualitative research approach using an exploratory case study design. This goal is to gain the deep, context-rich understanding of the barriers and the opportunity for Ripple adoption within traditional banks, especially considering that academic research in this area, particularly in Indonesia, is very limited. For data collection, I relied on both primary and secondary sources. The primary was collected by semi-structured interview with nine carefully selected industry professionals. This information the informant were not general respondent. They were key management personnel and subject matters expert in banking operation, fintechs compliance, and also payments system regulation. And their roles range from the senior banking executive, from experienced fintech consultant, and also the individual directly involved in the regulatory review. The purpose was to gather the strategic and institutional insight on the Ripple from decision maker, and also those directly exposed in the cross-border transaction processes. In addition, the secondary, we can using to validate and strengthening the insight from the regulatory document issued by Bank Indonesia or OJK, as well Ripple technology white papers, SWIFT protocol documentation, academic literature, and also reputable financial publication. And then for data analysis, I employed a thematic analysis as outlined by Brown and Clark to identify consistent themes and strategic concepts across interviews, and this support by the SWOT analysis to assess the Ripple positioning, and then also the gap analysis to understand the alignment with the Indonesian regulatory structure, and then comparative analysis to benchmark the Ripple against traditional systems such as SWIFT and also RAISE. And then we move on to the next slide about the result of this thematic analysis. The key issue emerged from expert interview, regulatory uncertainty from Bank Indonesia, lack of blockchain ready infrastructure, and institutional reluctance to adopt Ripple, despite its financial efficiency, bank and caution due to crypto volatility and also ML risk. I also interviewed by nine this sourceman and come out with the current network cross-border network that they use for traditional bank, which is SWIFT. This is how the typical SWIFT cross-border transaction flows. When a customer sends money internationally, the transfer does not go directly from the sender's bank to the received bank. Instead of passing through one or more intermediary correspondent banks that have bilateral relationship with both parties. Each intermediary bank checks for ML, KYC, and sanction screening and process the transfer in batch cycle, which are often only executed by during local business hours. The time zone differences, manual verification, and settlement queues will be as a delays indication. As a result, a swift transfer can be taken everywhere, anywhere from 1 to 5 working days to complete. In addition to being time-consuming, this flow incurs multiple fees, and sender usually has limited visibility into a transfer status or deduction takes by intermediary banks. Highlight with the SWIFT is often described as opaque or expensive. And through the gap analysis, I found that Ripple does not yet align with the key Bank Indonesia or PBI regulation, and particularly in areas such as custodial responsibility, local settlement control, and also centralized oversight. This regulation misaligned is a key adoption barriers. And for the comparative analysis shows Ripple is actually really superior in speed and cost versus Swift, but lags behind in terms of regulatory acceptance. The Crease, while highly effective for domestic use, but it's not designed for cross-border transaction. And then finally, we move on to the SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis Ripple shows a strong technical advantage, speed, transparency, and also low cost, but suffer in the regulatory risk, limited institutional buy-in. However, the opportunity exists to align Ripple with regional initiative like ASEAN cross-border integration is if regulator and banks collaborate effectively, it can be works. So last for my research thesis is actually about the conclusion, about the recommendation and also the conclusion. So to summarize this study addressed two research questions. The first is identify the key barriers to Ripple adoption in Indonesian banking, primarily a regulatory uncertainty, outdated infrastructure, and financial and compliance concern, and the organizational resistance. And as the second one is actually explore how Ripple can be adopted effectively. The findings suggest that the success requires regulatory alignment and system upgrade, pilot programs, and coordinated stakeholder readiness. It's actually really necessary to be done for this one. Ripple has strong potential to improve cross-border payment speed. The transparency also there, and the cost for the lower cost is also there. However, this benefit can only be realized and integrated strategically, ensuring a compliance and technical readiness. And based on this, I recommend five action that need to be taken. Especially the first one is actually to begin the regulatory sandbox testing with BI and OJK, and then modernize bank systems. And then we need to conduct phase pilot projects and also invest in internal blockchain knowledge. And last but not least, it's actually promote a regional partnership to positioning a Ripple within broader ASEAN payment ecosystem. And I think that's all for my research presentation for today. Hopefully, it can be useful in the future, and hopefully, any research in the future and also can be deep dive about this opportunity for the Ripple cross-border transaction, especially for to settle the real-time basis transfer. And thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and bye bye.